And the Blackpool Combat Club are taking over AEW. And I love it. Also, hello my friends, welcome to Ups and Downs. My name is Simon Miller, and given that we are about to talk about All Elite Wrestling, I just want to give you a salute and say thank you for last week when the WhatCulture guys ran amok for Double or Nothing and Dynamite and Rampage. You made me feel all warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, so I bow to you and I say thank you. But now we get back to this, the finger of power, wiggling it around and deciding whether we liked wrestling or if it was pants. But yeah, not only was Bryan Danielson on commentary, we did have a BCC match. The whole time, Bryan was just talking about Death Jitsu. I was like, man, that sounds pretty good. Amazingly, they were also facing the Lucha Bros and Bandido, and this was like taking pizza and ice cream and somehow combining it to make the perfect meal, even though that's milk and cheese. Although milk and cheese are essentially the same thing. So when you eat pizza and ice cream at the same time, why wouldn't it taste nice? How have we got here? The Blackpool Combat Club actually got wrecked in the beginning because they weren't ready for the super kicks and they weren't ready for the dives, which is basically just 2023 wrestling. So I was like, ha ha, here you guys are walking around going, oh man, we know all about the grappling, but you weren't ready for this, were you? Slap. I mean, they were absolutely murking each other even before the bell rang, including hurling each other into Barricade. Now, given what happened at AEW last week, I could take this counter and put it up to 78, but I'm going to be very nice and put it to 51. But 51 times, poor Baz has been assaulted. And have you seen this? That's right, I upgraded the sign to a t-shirt because I believe in justice for Barry. Somebody do something about it. When the bell finally did ring as well, Bandido grabbed Wheeler Yuta and he suplexed him for about 722 years. In fact, I haven't checked. It may still be going. The way they reverse this too is by pile driving Bandido on the outside. So I was like, this is out of control. When eventually we got the hot tag to Felix. He just hit his go button too, which kind of sounds a little bit sexual. But I tell you, when him and Penta did get a rocking and a rolling, I was a little bit turned on. Massively regret making that joke. Bandido and Wheels were then just smacking each other when we got a cutter and we got a frog splash and we just got more dives when the near fall started, which was especially good because you had Bryan Danielson on commentary just shouting, Wheeler Yuta, if you don't kick out and if you don't do what I told you to do, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to rip your arms off. This is basically what happened too, because eventually Jon Moxley saved Wheeler from the 21 plex. Claudio came in with his massive uppercut, and after Wheels had just absolutely smashed Bandido around, he was able to do that seat belt, whatever we call it, pin thingamajig, and he got the 1, 2, 3. Now this is massively important because who got the pin at Double or Nothing? It was Wheeler Yuta, and who got the pin here? It was Wheeler Yuta. It's also just so much fun because the BCC are on a roll right now, and when it comes to these luchas, well, they never let you down. Like if I needed a lift somewhere, I'd give them a call because I know they'd have my back. Giving it up. Alex Marvez was then backstage with the Elite and he was all like, oh, how do you feel after you're beating Anarchy in the arena? I was like, that was a dumb question. It's like somebody coming up to me and saying, oh Simon, how do you feel after somebody calls you Johnny Sins? Not great. Matt Jackson even said that the BCC bring out the worst in them, hence why he had used an exploding shoe. And that is actually something that happened when Hangman Adam Page walked in and he was all like, oh man, but we're still standing. I was like, great, he's inspired by Elton John. The absolute best part though is that the Dark Order walked in at one point and they were like, oh, Caribou, I see you hanging out with your brand new friends, maybe we'll just leave. And I massively appreciated this because it was a little bit of a loose end. When you actually get into the story, Hangman did kind of screw these guys over. They were there for him, he just went, I'm going back for my other buddy. He was going to chase them off when Marvez was like, wait a minute, where is Kenny Omega? Because he wasn't here. I heard he went back to Canada. When Page was like, well, he's not in the country, but he hasn't gone north of the border. And of course the tease was, maybe, just maybe, he's gone to Japan to get some friends. So we did so much in this segment because not only did we tie up loose ends, but we started to focus on the future. And if Ibushi and Okada don't get inserted into this feud soon, well, somebody is pulling my chain. You don't want anybody to pull your chain unless you've asked them to. Really have to stop saying these things. Point was, we did a lot here up. Which is when we got even more sports entertainment, because Tony Schiavone was interviewing Bullet Club Gold. Jay White soon took over as all like, well, we are a little bit pissed off with Ricky Starks because he did throw both of us out of that battle royal. However, is he the international champion? No, he is not. When Juice Robinson weighed in, he was like, also, We beat you up afterwards and FTR saved you. Now, I understand this because there's no way you've got friends. You're Ricky Starks and you're an absolute goober. The only problem with what he said, though, is that imagine you did it in real life. Look at this loser over here. He doesn't have any friends. What are you talking about? I'm literally stood here with a friend. What a no-friend friend. They continue to hammer the AEW Tag Team Champions when, like good Pokemon, they did appear. And given that they'd said their name a lot, you know that Kevin Owens would be pleased. This was absolutely hilarious. Because Jay White and Juice Robinson were all like, oh man, I bet you want to join the Bullet Club. And the whole time, they were hiding behind Tony Schiavone because they didn't want to get smacked in the face. It was all a trick, of course, because when they did pass them the microphone, they dropped it on the floor and they beat the absolute shit out of them. And eventually, Ricky Starks came out to make the save. I was like, Rick, you're a bit late here, you better be on the toilet. He also challenged Jay White for a match next week when everybody is banned from ringside, and that's perfect. And I suppose eventually we will do FTR versus Bullet Club Gold, and that will be an absolutely fantastic match. Also, I was just so pleased we finally gave Jay White a microphone. This guy is so good at being a dick. So I enjoyed all of this, and once again, I think the program is good. Giving it up. When, yes, we cut to Tony Khan, who did indeed reveal that on the very first AEW Collision, do you know who is returning to All Elite Wrestling? Doink the Clown. Imagine it. I mean, actually, he wouldn't be returning to AEW. The point is, it's CM Punk. This was greeted by a thunderous reaction, and yes, there were some boos, but let's not worry about that. Let's just hope that this all works out and it helps AEW grow as a business, because that's all I want. I want wrestling to be as successful as possible, and I want everyone to be happy and healthy and feel warm in their tum-tum. So I do keep my fingers crossed, and look, as a fan, am I super duper excited about this? Of course I am. Who the flub knows what's going to happen? When we had Trent taking on Swerve, Strickland taking on Big Bill, which was fallout from the Battle Royal at Double or Nothing, and we just talked to the Finger of Power, that's correct, it was great. Swerve is just on fire right now, not literally, and much like at the pay-per-view, he just went to the outside. I was like, look man, there's two of you guys, why don't you just go at it? This meant it was speed versus power, and I'm also very pleased that the Biggest of Bills is getting a push, because he too has momentum. This is when Trent looked at Swerve and he hit him with a dive. Let's not sleep on Trent either. That guy is pure entertainment. Bill then remembered that he is really tall and you can't teach that, so he started to boot people right in the face. And I tell you, he is not your ordinary big guy, even though he is called Big Bill. He has something to him, and I hope we push him to the moon. Trent was then doing moonsaults to the outside, so Swerve decided to punt him right in the skull, when they actually realized, wait a minute, if we start working together, maybe we'll be the size of Big Bill, so they gave him a double suplex, and even though that sounds simple, actually looked really impressive. Bill still came back with that awesome boss man slam that he does. This is when the near fall started, because Swerve came in with the stomp, but Trent got out of the way of that, and instead, he drived his piles. Does that work? Not really, you hit him with the power driver. Bill then started to whack out some choke slams, especially this huge one on Trent, when all of a sudden Strickland was like, wait a minute, this is a triple threat match. I know what you can do. He stomped Big Bill, and as Trent was just laying there, he pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Good news is that Swerve now continues to absolutely smash it and surely is going to have a match with Orange Cassidy for the international title, and actually that is happening next week. Now we have to ask the question, what happened to the Keith Lee feud? But you know what? At this point, I'm just done with it. We didn't do the match. Maybe we'll come out the other side of this and Keith will be back involved. But I have real problems to worry about. And in terms of this damn thing, giving it up. We then had this great video package focusing on the fact that Kris Statlander had come back and beat Jade Cargill to win the TBS champion, and man, what a great babyface she is, when we were with Rennie Paquette, who was interviewing the Acclaim. The first thing she did too is she reminded them that they lost at the pay-per-view. That kind of reminds me of this. Hey mum, hey dad, good to see you as always. Well, if it isn't our loser son, who's a massive loser, we hate you. Not entirely sure why I still come home. Billy Gunn was especially sad because he did take the pinfall at the pay-per-view, and Max Caster was all like, don't worry, big daddy ass. We win together and we lose together. Actually, when you break it down, isn't true at all. Anthony Bowens also reminded us that they were screwed out of the tag team titles recently, so not only do they want to win gold back, but given that this is Daddy Ass, the absolute legend, before he hangs up his pants, they want him to have a title too. This was kind of it too when we got the big line that everybody loves the Acclaimed and everybody loves Billy Gunn. So I'm not entirely sure what the direction is. Like, nobody came out, they didn't name anybody. And it is really good that we got the Acclaimed on TV because they're just so hot right now. But yeah, where are we going? So it is a wait and see situation, but again, I think Tony Khan realized this. He was like, well, look, we got to get them on Dynamite at the very least. And for that reason alone, I'm giving it an up. Also, I do love the Acclaimed, so just seeing them makes me feel good in my Tootsie Toes. If that sounds weird, it's because it was. The sports entertainment then continued, and I'm sure some people were melting down about this, but sometimes you just need it. Hook it to my veins. This one was absolutely brilliant too, because out came Don Callis and out came Takeshita, and given what they had done at Double or Nothing, they got booed out of here like they were Dominic Mysterio. I mean, Don essentially had to shout into the microphone. He was being jeered so much, and his whole point was, look, all this noise better be for Kenny Omega, because you can go through all of his accolades and who was by his side and who made sure these did happen. It was me. So I'm the man, I'm the champ, screw that blonde-haired idiot. He also blames Omega for the fact he has a massive scar on his head. I thought that was John Moxley, but what do I know? Which is when he said while he's lost a nephew, he has gained a son in Takeshita. And my hand went straight up. I was like, Callis, that's not how the family system works. He then started to run down a who's who of Japanese legends and said that Takeshita is better than all of them. When we gave the mic to Takeshita, he got booed out of here too, and he was just like, Kenny Omega, I am going to destroy you. Callis then followed up on this, and he did say that Kenny Omega had destroyed his family, so now he's going to build a new one. And honestly, within about 35 seconds, I was like, yep, these two are absolutely phenomenal together, and they're doing exactly what heels should do. All of a sudden, I like the Elite even more, because these two idiots are a couple of jabronis. And all you really need to know is that they were eaten alive from start to finish. So this has been a tremendous success. And if we do put a Okada and Ibushi in it, holy crap, man, this could spark something off super fierce, and I am totally ready for it. I searched my feelings, and it said, yes, this is the way to go. You really should go watch this. It is excellent. Then a quick video focusing on the Wardlow-Christian cage match from Double or Nothing when Wardlow went crazy. As did Arn Anderson. Because he was talking about biting the lizard's hand, and I was like, man, that is so damn offensive. He ain't no lizard, he's a dinosaur. Before Wardlow walked in and was like, oh, I don't like Luchasaurus. It certainly sounds like that's gonna be our next match, which it should be. I mean, Luchasaurus was put on a table and then senton threw it off a ladder. He needs his revenge. I swear we were just trying to have fun on this episode of Dynamite as well. Because from nowhere, the next match was Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy teaming again to take on the Gates of Agony. Now they always make me laugh because I'm pretty sure a gate can't be in pain. I mean, it's just a gate, it's not like Barry Barricade, who is alive. But I will tell you this, Leona and Khan are a really good team. Flub me sideways, they tried to kill these guys. Now the ending was a little bit telegraphed because Darby and Orange were never going to lose, but because of that, we told the Gates of Agony to just beat on these two, and my word, did they. At one point, Darby Allin went for the coffin drop, and he just got pounced out of his boots. And I was like, that's it, he's dead. It got even worse for the good guys, because Brian Cage, Prince Nana, and Swerve Strickland walked out here, which is when we got the warmest tag to Orange Cassidy, and he was kind of doing his pockets deal. But once again, him and Darby just got absolutely destroyed, including the Gates of Agony, taking Allin, throwing him into Barry Barricade. And it wasn't just once, it was about 92 times. So are you kidding me? Why is everybody ignoring me? What do I have to do? Like go to some kind of government building and go, ah. If I do that, I'm going to be arrested. I've told you once, I told you twice, I told you 1,000 times. If you were sitting there getting your hair cut, snip, 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 and somebody walked in and beat up the hairdresser, you'd be like, well, that's not very kosher. So what's the difference here? If we didn't have Barry Barricade, all the fans would run in the ring. Bring it down. It's 50-3. The owner soon hit a Samoan drop after this, and I was like, I think that's okay because he is a Samoan, and if not, we just have to call it the drop. Which is when the piece of fruit was able to reverse some DDTs into a double Hurricane Rana. Then he hit the Stun Dog Millionaire, and Darby Allin was like, blah, 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 and he smashed the coffin drop, and he got the 1, 2, 3. And I tell you, these two can team whenever the hell they want. They're just so damn over with the fans, and they're great characters in their own right. So I'm absolutely giving it an up. And now we get to do Swerve and Orange next week. Yes. It got even better too because these assholes got in there and started beating them up. So do you know who arrived to make the save? It was Sting. And we haven't seen Sting in ages. Everybody went crazy. I mean, this crowd was great the entire evening. And the dude just has such an aura to him. As I've told you before, I basically love him. Of course, this meant he helped out his son and an orange, which only you can do in wrestling. And if we now do this 6-man tag, well, who is gonna be mad about that?
I will.
Oh, shut up. We had another video, this time focusing on the 4 Pillars match, as MJF was like, way, I won, and don't forget there's nobody else on my level, and in fact, I'm running out of competition. Now, that's not true at all. But you know, he keeps going on saying, I'm a generational talent. He has been so good recently, I ain't gonna argue with it. Which is when we got to another interview, because Dynamite was just interview central. As already told you, I got no problem with it. Tony Schiavone was back and he was talking to Hook because, of course, at Double or Nothing, he had teamed up with the Hardys and they had won, meaning Matt now owns Ethan Page's contract. I still don't really know what that means. Does it mean that Matt Hardy now just has a piece of paper? Good for him. Of all the people LFI interrupted though, and Jose the assistant was all like, man, we never get any kind of opportunities. And also, do you see that Roosh isn't with us? It's because he's too dangerous for TV. And I was like, well, if that's true, how the hell is he ever going to come back? I also want to know what that means, because what is he, a bomb? And given that Preston Vance and Jericho had bothered to turn up to Dynamite, they jumped Hook, and I was like, well, someone's going to make the save. I wonder who's going to make the save. I was expecting and the Hardy Boys to come out, but it wasn't, and we got somewhat of a surprise, because here came Jungle Boy. They chased away these idiots and gave them a good beating, and all of a sudden my brain was like, wait a minute. This does mean that Jungle Hook is back together, and I tell you, the best reason to do that is because Jack Perry is going to turn on this wonderfully haired warrior, and then you can feud Hook and Jungle Boy. Now look, I've totally made that up. That's complete speculation, but if you do it, it would make sense, because Jungle Boy ended this team as he was like, oh man, I want to go win some singles title. And was he able to achieve that? No. So I am pumped. I am excited about an expectation I've just made up for myself. That just makes me a human being. Up. Renee was then earning her check because she was doing another interview, this time with Tony Storm, who was joined by the Outcasts. Ooh. Storm refuted claims that she didn't deserve her brand new AEW Women's Championship because she does, as all these people were like, no one's gonna take it off us, because we're like bad people and we're gonna win. Okay. Which brought us to Kris Statlander's first title defense. Pretty damn great. She was defending her newly won TBS title against Nyla Rose, and I tell you, Nyla is such a good person to have on your roster because she can fill this role perfectly. Now, she's so damn entertaining, I would turn her babyface and use her more, but if you just need a monster for someone to defeat, well, she's pretty much perfect. As Rose slammed Kris around too, we did see Taya Valkyrie watching this, and she looked a bit like, well, I can't believe it. I'd already done the hard work with Jade Cargill, and you stole my opportunity when Nyla turned on me, because she had Kris Statlander against Barry Barricade, and she crushed her. So I can't even remember what this on now. What did I say, 53, 54? Let's just say 54. It's getting very depressing for me. I'm meant to be Barry's friend. I can't do anything to save him. Statlander then decided the best way to get back into this was to crack Nyla's jaw, so she hit a jaw cracker. I don't think it's called that, I've just made it up, when she finished the thing off with a 450. That's pretty damn impressive. Didn't see that coming, but I am super excited about this, especially because we did see Taya watching on at the end of the thing. So there's your first feud. As I've already told you, Kris is just such a good babyface, is gonna rock up. When we bookended the show as we started with some good old-fashioned fun. Man, that sounded terrible again. For it was Adam Cole and Britt Baker taking on Saraya and Chris Jericho, which sounds like something you'd do on a video game. And we must have massive fans for Cole, because for the second time in a week, he beat Chris Jericho. And that's no small thing, so now we should get him ready for MJF and do it for the damn AEW World title. These two also continued their hate as they unloaded on each other. My word, why do I keep saying these things? And it was just so damn entertaining. Eventually Britt Baker and Saraya were there as well. They started hitting lumps out of each other. And a small part of me was like, maybe we should have done this at the pay-per-view instead. Saraya was then taking the referee and using that as a distraction so Jericho could trip Britt Baker. And I tell you, this is the absolute best version of Kris. He walks around like a tough guy, but inside he's terrified of the world. And he always makes it so damn entertaining. I love it. He then kept trying this nonsense so the outcasts who were out there could also cause a fuss. But this is when Shida got involved and she chased them off with a big stick. And I was glad that did happen because imagine Shida didn't do this. You'd be like, well, what the flub were you doing? Cole and Jericho also got back into it here when Cole went for the Panama Sunrise, but Jericho turned that into the Walls of Jericho, which I'm always here for. So Britt was like, all right, well, I can see an opportunity, and she put the lockjaw on Kris. Everybody went crazy, as they should have done. Allin then went for a super kick, but got code breakered instead when Britt and Saraya once again got back into it. I just sat there going, oh man, I'm having a good time. Jericho is such a wonderful ass, he then got Floyd the baseball bat and swung it at Britt Baker. And that is equal parts hilarious and equal parts terrible. But once again, he is the bad guy, he is the heel, and he was about to get his. Because not only did Adam Cole super kick him, but then Britt Baker and Cole gave him a dual super kick. Because he was wibbly, Adam Cole hit him with the boom, and he pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. And do not understate that. That does count as a big deal. Adam Cole can then be like, oh man, I think I deserve a world title shot. Though he doesn't talk like that, and anyone that does talk like that probably isn't going to become world champion. But this was a great main event, and once again, it just made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum. Give me more of this, and I'm giving it enough. Which brought us to the end of what I thought was a phenomenal Dynamite, and kind of made me feel like Double or Nothing was the full stop, and this was the start of a brand new chapter, especially given Collision and everything with CM Punk. So I am going to give it an up, and I bet in a few months we look back on this occasion and go, ha, that was a real turning point. I am excited. Also, please do leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, and click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs for Double or Nothing. We did it live outside of the T-Mobile Arena. It was just wonderful, wonderful chaos. Once again, it's a massive thank you from me. Just have such a great time doing these videos. They are super duper silly. See you soon.